Ever wonder why they call it falling in love? It's because falling is effortless. It's easy. It's not working in love. It's not grinding in love. After a few days, a few weeks of knowing someone, a few dates, a few bottle of wines, boom, the wave of love just hits you and takes you over, and you have these intense, strong feelings you didn't even necessarily have to earn. We can agree that falling in love is easy, but staying in love, making a relationship work, when it starts to feel like work, well, that's a whole different ballgame. And look, I'm not the relationship expert here. I joke, go ask my girlfriend, she'll agree with you on that. But after a decade plus of being in long-term relationships, I've realized there's 3 important lessons that if you don't know, you're gonna have the wrong expectations. And these are things I wish I knew earlier. So my intention with this video is to have some fun, teach you these 3 lessons, hopefully improve your current relationship if you're in one, set your next one up for success, or even prevent you from unnecessary heartbreak and losing the love of your life. Here we go. Relationship advice number 1. Have you heard that relationships are 50-50? Here's why that's wrong. Bit of a story to kick this one off. There's a boy and a girl playing in a neighborhood. The boy has a bag of marbles he had just gotten for his birthday. The girl has a bag of candy she had just gotten for her birthday. They're looking at what each other has and they say, hey, let's trade. The boy hands over all his marbles and the girl hands over all her candy. Except the boy kept his favorite marble of all. He held out on her. The girl kept her promise and gave all the candy over. Later that night, she went to bed, happy with the trade. The boy, however, couldn't sleep. He was up all night, wondering, stressing if the girl had kept some of the candy just like he had kept his marble. You've heard that relationships are 50-50. That's not true. Relationships are 100-100. Point number 1, be all in every time. Now, obviously I'm talking long-term committed relationships here. I'm not talking about like the talking stage or you just met someone. But once you both make the decision, hey, we're gonna do this thing, we're gonna make this work, you can't hold anything back. You can't have things on the back burner. You have to push your fears, your doubts, your beliefs aside. The reason most people's relationships don't work out is because they're metaphorically holding on, holding back to some of their marbles, afraid to go all in. The reason you might do this is because in the back of your mind, there's a fear that if, I'm all in with this person and it doesn't work out, damn, that's way more painful than if I'm 70% in. At least I got 30% less pain. In this way, the holding back some of the marbles in a relationship, some of the commitment, some of yourself, some of your feelings, suppressing it is a protection mechanism for you. But ironically, this is the reason why your relationship won't work out. They will sense that. It then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're not committed, you're not all in this relationship. They start to sense it and pull away, and then you get hurt. It doesn't work. I'm not Mr. Perfect on YouTube here, right? I'm saying these are my lessons from a decade plus of relationships. And there were times in a long-term relationship where I was not all in. I was in playing not to lose mode. I was protecting myself selfishly. I wasn't fully committed. And you know what's interesting? At that time in my life, I realized yes, that's what I was doing in the relationship. But this is something to ask yourself if you relate to this. Where else in your life are you not fully all in? I realized early 20s Clark in that relationship where I was kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, yeah, whatever. I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out with my health. I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out with my business. I was 1 foot out with saving money. My whole life was playing not to lose. So many people live their life this way. Or people subconsciously think, well, yeah, in the dating stage, I'll be kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but then once we flip a switch, we sign the contract, we say the I do's, then I'll start buying the flowers randomly. I'll start writing the cards. I'll start, being the patient partner. I'll start pulling out all the bells and whistles. Does not work that way. If you're not doing it now, assume you never will. If they're not doing it now, assume they never will. So if you're afraid to go all in, what you're really saying is that I'm more committed to living in fear than I am to living in love. Risk is an inherent part of commitments. Risk is an inherent part of love. So this point, don't hold back. Because if you're not all in, if you're holding back some of your best favorite marbles, you're always going to assume that your partner is doing that as well. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and the relationship won't work. Best advice number 2, drop your stories. You might be tempted to view your relationships that didn't work out as a waste of time. Or people are hung up on exes. Maybe they'll come back around. They'll break down the door. They'll say I'm wrong. Should have been you all along. Whatever it is, it's normal to have fantasies in your minds that play out. Some people get stuck here. It might seem harmless, like it's just a daydream that you can shake. A lot of times they don't go away on their own. Some people carry these around for years, some even for decades, some their entire life. Let me tell you a story about a guy who couldn't get over his ex and what it did to him. One of the greatest shows to hit television. It's called Nathan for You. The series finale of the show stars an unlikely protagonist, a 78-year-old professional Bill Gates impersonator. Bill and Nathan have an unlikely friendship that's developed, and he hangs around his office telling Nathan stories about his time in Little Rock, Arkansas. But there's one person he keeps coming back to, an ex-girlfriend named Frances. In fact, Bill still carries around love letters that she wrote 50 years ago. Except there's one problem, Bill doesn't know where she is. So Nathan decides to use the remaining production budget to film Bill tracking down Frances. They post flyers in town with her image, they ask all the friends, they go to the town he grew up in, they even throw a 57th random high school reunion in the hopes that she would show up. Finally, a source tells them, "You guys looking for Frances? I know where she is. She's married, living in Michigan." Bill is crushed. Nathan, needing to finish what they started for television, decides that they're gonna fly to Michigan and at least have a conversation. Maybe she'll leave her husband, maybe she does love you, maybe she's been waiting for you for 50 years, Bill. Admittedly, kind of creepy, but they find her address, they park down the street. Bill decides to give her a phone call because the cameras might startle her. "Hi, is this Frances?" "Yeah, who's this?" "This is Bill." "Who's Bill?" "From Arkansas. Come on, you remember me." Who?" "No, I'm sorry, I don't." "Oh, yeah, Bill. Hi, how are you?" She barely remembers him. She says she's happily married, she has grandkids, and she's moved on. Bill's last words were, "There's no need to go inside." Here's someone who spent 50 years hung up on an ex, playing a fantasy in his mind about how they were going to get back together. And the reality couldn't be further from the truth. She not only didn't care, she barely remembered him. Now here's the main point and the biggest lesson. You might be tempted to look back on past relationships and play a fantasy in your head, and that's normal. You shouldn't judge yourself for that. But there comes a time where you need to let go, because they will prevent you from future ones. If you can't get over an ex or you can't get over a relationship, understand that that's just a story in your mind. Like, that person doesn't even exist. Just like it was for Bill playing this Frances character. She had moved on. She was not the 20, 30-year-old that he knew. She was a 50, 60, 70-year-old woman who didn't even match up to what he thought he was in love with. So when people ask, like, how do I get over a past relationship so I can open myself up and be all in new ones, understand you don't need to get over the person. You need to drop your story that you're telling yourself about the person. The story that they're gonna come back into your life and it's going to be different, and they're gonna break down the door and say, "I was wrong. I love you. You were the one I was supposed to be with." That's all our ego concocting this fantasy. I've often said that if you can't get over an ex, it's because it's two sides of a coin. The first side is the pain. It hurts. It sucks. Maybe you still miss that person. You miss all the memories, all the inside jokes, all the things you'll never get back or be able to do with someone. Totally get it. You wanna drop that pain. But you also have to realize that on the other side of the coin, you're getting a lot of pleasure from that. Pleasure from the fantasy, like Bill did for 50 years over Frances, being hung up on how it's gonna be this big explosion when they get back together. The pleasure of them saying, "I was wrong." The pleasure that your ego gets and is fueled by the self-importance, the self-righteousness, that I'm going to show them. If you're still hung up on people or experiences from your past, understand that it's normal, but until you drop it, it's going to be carried around with you in the future. Best advice, point 3. The last lesson is one I will never stop talking about on this channel because it is the most important thing for you to understand in any area of life. Stop trying to look for the right person and start trying to become the right person. 10s attract 10s. Now, I don't just mean looks wise, I mean energetically, lifestyle wise, communication wise, interest wise. You don't see a level 10 person with a level 5. That's a mismatch, that's a misalignment. And oftentimes if you do, it's not for a sustained period of time. You ever known a relationship where someone outgrew the other person, or they leveled up and the person stayed here, and so they drifted apart? You hear that all the time. You see it where maybe there's a level 10 person and a level 5 who like manipulates his way into the relationship, and the whole time he's insecure. He's worried that she's gonna leave him, or he feels like he doesn't deserve her. He has worthiness issue blocks. And so right there, he pushes her away until it actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. She leaves, she moves on. So the only way you will have a better relationship is if you better yourself. Your relationships will only grow to the extent that you do. If you want someone in shape and good looking, become that. If you want someone emotionally secure, heal yourself first. You want someone who's patient and a good listener, become that. On this note, the poet Rumi has a beautiful take. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Stop looking, start becoming. Raise yourself up, remove your own barriers, and that's how you attract the perfect person into your life. If you're looking to become that level 10 version, I'll link down below more information about our Metamorphic Coaching Program, where we work with you on just that, creating you 2.0, the best version of you. And we've had people who are, out of a relationship, or they want to better themselves to attract better ones. And we walk them through the process of shifting their identity, creating that best version, what that looks like in 10 weeks. So I'll link down below where you can talk to one of our coaches for free. No pressure, only for those of you who are interested. If you're not, that's totally cool as well. And then what I'll do right here is link up a playlist on some more of our relationship talks like this. If you dig the vibe, that's a perfect place to go after this one. Thanks so much for watching. See you there. Stop settling, start living. See ya.